Salvete omnes. This is chapter 45, exercise C, focusing on substantive clauses of purpose, otherwise known as indirect commands. We are to translate these English sentences into Latin, starting with sententia prima. Sententia prima. The senators had instructed the consuls to defend the state from all dangers. The senators had instructed the consuls to defend the state from all dangers. So the senators, the senator, senatoris masculine, we want the nominative plural masculine because the senators are the subject of the sentence. So the senators did the verb to the object. Keep in mind that some verbs may be different, either transitive or intransitive, than they are in English. So the senators instructed the consuls so that they, the consuls, might defend the state from all dangers. So the subject, senatores, had instructed. A verb for to instruct is mando, mandare, mandavi, mandatus. It's a first conjugation. The object is dative. Whatever you instruct or order takes the dative. So mando takes the dative. Consuls will be in the dative. So the senators had instructed, third person plural, pluperfect active indicative, mandaverant, senatores mandaverant. They had instructed the consul, consulus masculine, dative plural, dative because mando takes the dative, consulibus, senatores consulibus mandaverant. And then what did they instruct them to do? What thing? What noun clause? What's long substantive? A substantive clause of purpose. They urged, instructed, they willed the consuls so that, for the purpose of the consuls defending the state from all dangers. So we want ut. Indirect commands are introduced by ut or ne. Ut for the positive, ne for the negative. So senatores consulibus mandaverant ut. And then we have had instructed, pluperfect. That means that we are in secondary sequence. We are in secondary sequence. That means that the dependent subjunctive verb must be in the imperfect subjunctive. Imperfect subjunctive. So we want the third person plural, imperfect active of defendo, defendere, defendi, defensus, because we want the consuls to defend. So they are third person plural. Imperfect active subjunctive. Defend the state. The state is the res publica. The res publica. Don't say civitas here. The Romans would refer to the state as the republic, the res publica. We want the accusative, which would be the rem publicam. Rem publicam, the republic. From all dangers. We're going to defend that accusative direct object state from all dangers. So we want ablative of separation. Can't touch danger, so no preposition. We want danger, periculum e neuter, and all is omnis omne. So periculis omnibus, or omnibus periculis. The whole thing together, something like senatores consulibus mandaverant, ut rem publicam omnibus periculis defenderent. Optime, secunda sententia secunda. She is asking her father to give her money. She is asking her father to give her money. She is the subject. The verb is asking. She is asking her father. That's the object of the verb, her father. And what is she asking her father to do? She is willing or urging her father so that he may give money to her. He may give direct object money to her dative indirect object. So she is asking. If you want to put a nominative singular subject for her, for she, for feminine, just so we don't automatically think that it's a he, third person singular masculine he, because Latin's a sexist language. So you could say ea, ea, from is ea id, ea rogat, ea rogat. I'm going to use rogo, rogare, rogavi, rogatus. You could also use peto, quairo. You could use peto and quairo plus ab and the ablative to mean to ask of her father. Just make sure that you put father in the ablative with or ab. So ea rogat, if you use rogo, it's just the accusative direct object. Rogo is a transitive verb. Her father. Now, if you want to emphasize it's her father, I mean, we can guess that she's asking her father, and we don't really need to put this this possessive here because it's kind of unemphatic. But if you really want to emphasize, yes, she's asking her own father, you could use the reflexive suus a The su part tells you it's referring back to the subject. It's her own father. And then the us a part has to agree with the noun father. So if she's asking her patrem, that would be suum patrem, suum patrem. She's asking her patrem, suum. The su part tells you it's her own, refers back to the subject. The part agrees with the patrem, the accusative singular masculine. You don't need it though. So you can say patrem ea rogat, patrem ea patrem rogat, or a patre petit, so that he may give money to her. Now, give, dodare dedidatus, we want this to be in the present subjunctive because we are in primary sequence because of the present tense verb here. So we want det, so that he may det give to her the money. Her, we definitely want this to be the dative reflexive sibi because it's referring back to the subject of the main verb, sibi. And then the money, it's going to be the accusative of pecunia, I feminine, singular, pecuniam, pecuniam. Ea patrem rogat, ut sibi pecuniam det. Ut sibi pecuniam det. D-E-T. Optime, tertia, sententia tertia. The leader, with great difficulty, persuaded the soldiers to fight in that valley. With great difficulty. So the leader, dux, ducus masculine, the subject, nominative singular masculine, dux, with great difficulty. This is an ablative of manner. So we want great, magnus aon, and difficulty is difficultas, difficultatis feminine. So we want the ablative, difficultate, and we want magnus aon to agree with it, feminine singular ablative, magna, make run over the second A. Magna cum difficultate, you don't need the cum, but it should be, the word order should be adjective cum noun, magna cum difficultate, or just magna difficultate. Dux magna cum difficultate, persuaded the soldiers, Now, persuade is persuadeo, persuadere, persuasi, persuasus, and takes the dative. So soldiers must be dative. So he persuaded, persuasit, third person singular, perfect, active, indicative. Dux magna cum difficultate persuasit, the soldiers. We want the dative of miles militis masculine, so militibus persuasit. And what did he persuade them to do? Indirect commands, so that they might fight in that valley. Perfect tense, secondary sequence, we want imperfect subjunctive for fight. Pugno, pugnare, pugnavi, pugnatus, pugnarent, so that they might fight in that valley. Which one? That's that one over there. We could say in ea valle, vallis feminine, in ea, make run over the a valle, or in illa valle, Dux magna cum difficultate militibus persuasit, ut in illa valle pugnarent. Quarta, sententia quarta. He begged his mother not to send him to that school. So he begged his mother, he pleaded, he begged, he besought of his mother, please don't send me to that school. So he begged, I'm going to use oro, orare, oravi, oratus. Transitive verb takes the accusative. You could use imploro, implorare, imploravi, imploratus. You can use peto plus the plus the ablative. I'm going to use oro. So his mother, of course, it's his own mother. We can guess that he's begging his own mother, please don't send me to that school, and not going across the street and begging somebody else's mother. So I'm not going to include the suam matrem, but if you really wanted to, matrem oravit. Matrem oravit. Begged is third person singular, perfect active indicative. So we're in secondary sequence, and the dependent subjunctive verb should be in the imperfect subjunctive. Matrem oravit. Not to do this. Don't do this. It's not ut, but nay. Nay. Don't do that. Nay. Nay, to send, mitta, mittere, misi, one s, missus, double s. Takes the accusative him, direct object. To send him, it's going to be the same him as the one who's begging, right? So the reflexive say is used. To that school. Odd, motion towards, to that school. Now it can be the school far away. Over there yonder. Ille, illa, illud. Ludus e masculine school, ad illum ludum. But the Romans, if ille follows a noun, it usually means that noun. And you know which one I'm talking about. So if we said ad ludum illum, that means that school. Yeah, that one. You know which one. You know. So altogether, something like matrem oravit, ne ad ludum illum miteret, so that she might not send him to that school. Se ad ludum illum miteret. Forgot to say. You don't have to put the illum after the ludum. You can say it's the school that's just far away. He doesn't want to walk that far. Or you can say it's that one, and you know which particular school that is. Everyone does. Quinta, sententia quinta. The tribune has ordered grain from the farmers and wine from the merchants. Okay, you might see this a few times in Caesar because he does this when he commands soldiers from certain parts of the province. So impero, imperare, imperavi, imperatus. Yes, it takes a dative of whomever you command or order. If you order someone to do something, that someone is in the dative. But you can just impero order something like in a drive-through. Like I want a number 2. Like you can order a cheeseburger. The impero works that way too. Caesar will impero order soldiers, milites. So the tribune has ordered, it can take an accusative direct object if you order something like on a menu. And that's what he's doing here. The tribune has ordered grain from the farmers, and then he's ordered wine from the merchants. Like he's ticking off on a list. Like I want this, I want an order of this, and a bit of this. So impero can be used that way. So tribunus e masculine, tribunus the tribune, he has ordered, imperavit, that's the perfect tense, third person singular, imperavit. Grain, fermentum, fermentum e neuter, grain. He's not ordering the grain to do something. That'd be silly. But he is ordering grain. Direct object. So tribunus fermentum ab agricolis et vinum a mercatoribus imperavit. Hopefully the rest of that was pretty easy. Direct object from the ablative separation. Et vinum, the other direct object from the ablative separation merchants. Mercator, mercatoris, masculine. Sexta, sententia sexta. The messenger demanded of the boys that they lead him through the great forest, and then they left him there. So the messenger, the nuntius nunti masculine, demanded, he demanded, postulo, postulare, postulavi, postulatus, of the boys, takes a plus the ablative, to demand of someone. So the nuntius, pueris, postulavit, perfect tense, so we are in secondary sequence, and the subjunctive verb should be in the imperfect subjunctive. That they lead him through the forest, so that they might lead him through the forest. Ut lead, duco ducere duxi ductus, ut ducarent, him. The him is the same as the messenger, so the reflexive se. Ut se ducarent, through the great forest. Through is per plus the accusative. Great is magnus a agrees with forest. Silva I feminine, per silva magnam. So nuntius a pueris postulavit, ut se per silva magnam ducarent. Ut se per silva magnam ducarent. Septima, sententia septima. We command you to complete this work. Therefore, it ought to be begun at once. So we command you. You're going to use impero. You can use mando, or impero, imperare, imperavi, imperatus. I command you. Impero takes the dative if you command someone. So tibi imperamus. Tibi imperamus. We command you so that you may complete this work. So that you may complete this work. So here we have complete. We have perficio or conficio. I'm going to say perficio. Perficio, perficere, perfeci, perfectus. So that you may complete. We command you in the present tense primary sequence to present subjunctive complete. So perficias, perficias. Tibi imperamus ut perficias. And in this work, you can use labor, laboris masculine, or you can use opus, operis neuter. So I'm going to use hoc opus. You can say hunc laborem if you want. Tibi imperamus ut hoc opus perficias. Therefore, it ought to be begun at once. Therefore, this is a fun one. It's igitur, and it's post-positive. So an important or emphatic word usually comes first and then the therefore. I'm going to go ahead and translate the at once. So statim igitur, at once therefore at once, it ought to be begun. It ought to be begun. So it ought, you can use debeo here. Debeo, debere, debui, debitus. It ought, debet, to be begun. To be begun is incipio, incipere, incepi, inceptus. So we want the present passive infinitive to be begun, incipi, incipi. Statim igitur incipi debet. Duh. Tibi imperamus ut hoc opus perficias. Statim igitur incipi debet. And finally, demum octava, sententia octava. Caesar, he let some farmers go away, but he warned others to carry the grain to the camp in carts. And let him not warn you a second time. Caesar let some farmers go away. This is Caesar dismissed some farmers. He dimitto, dimittere, dimissi, dimissus. He dismissed them. So Caesar is masculine, Caesar. Caesar, he let some farmers go away, but others. So we have some, and then we have others. So we're going to use alius and alius to do a strong compare and contrast between some and then others. So some farmers, alios agricolas, the accusative direct object of the verb go away, he dismissed them. So alios agricolas Caesar dimissit, he let some others go away. Sed alios but others. Repeat the alios to mean the others. Some of them he let go away. Sed alios monuit, but he warned others. So that, and this is what he warned them to do, or ordered them to do, he willed or urged them to do. He warned them, you better carry that grain to the camp in the carts. To carry the grain to the camp in the carts. So, ut, carry, porta, portare, portavi, portatus, he warned them. So, perfect tense, secondary sequence, we want the imperfect of porto, portarent, so that they might carry, portarent, the grain, fermentum e neuter, we want the accusative singular direct object, fermentum. Sed alios monuit ut fermentum portarent, to the camp. Ad plus the accusative motion towards. The accusative of castra is, wait for it, castra. Castra, castrorum, castris, castra, castris. In carts, don't say in plus the ablative of location for this. In carts, this is ablative of means. He warned others to carry grain to the camp by means of carts. That the grain goes in the carts, and that's the means by which they get the grain to the camp in the carts. It's just the ablative of means. The ablative plural of carus e masculine is caris. Caris. So this is a pretty good sentence. How about Caesar dimittit alios agricolas, sed alios monuit, ut frumentum ad castra caris portarent. Optime, very well done. That should wrap up chapter 45. Valete.